good evening, everybody. So today it's very exciting because I have a very special guest today. His name is David, and David is a longtime seller already. And the reason why I knew David is because I've been a member of different groups, and I see David there, and I'm so glad that he ended up joining my group, the free group for Amazon sellers for Canadians, and he's there, and he's very helpful. And I know him based on like the way he answer and help other members. And I've been wanting to interview him. So when I start thinking that I'm going to start interviewing people, I said, okay, David should be in one of them, right? So good evening, David.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here today. Okay, so everybody is excited to hear this interview because you're one, I think for me, you're one of the proof that even if you work full-time, you know, in your job, you can still do Amazon, right? So David here makes $550K a year on Amazon despite his full-time job. So David, would you mind introducing yourself? Like what do you do? Do you work full-time? Do you work part-time before doing Amazon? So what do you do for a living aside from Amazon?
Yes, so I actually am a traffic engineer. So I work full-time on a project here in Montreal. I've been working there. This is my 5th year. It's also my 5th year on Amazon. So I started them pretty much at the exact same time. It's a 40-hour-a-week job. My bachelor's degree is from McGill in civil engineering. I also have a master's degree in transportation engineering. And yeah, so engineering is by far like my main job. I do work it 40 hours a week. And then I do Amazon on top of that, around that.
Wow. So you've been working full time and yet you managed to find a side hustle, which is Amazon selling. So what made you decide, or how did you find first Amazon? Like, how did you learn about Amazon selling?
Yes, so that's actually a funny story. So it was by complete accident actually that I ended up in Amazon. I've always been entrepreneurial. Like when I was 19, I had my own painting business called Student Works Painting, and I had a pretty good experience. I finished like in like the top 10% of managers, but that was a long time ago. And then fast forward, actually in beginning of 2018, I out of nowhere lost my job as an engineer in Winnipeg. And it actually took me over a year to find a new job. So as we got closer at the beginning of 2019, it's now been like a year since I'm out of work. And I was like, wow, this is like a pretty challenging situation, right? So I'm going to do what I can do. And I noticed that we had some stuff to sell around the house. So I'm like, you know what, let's just get rid of this junk, free up some space and free up some cash. So I was just selling random items on Marketplace, and Marketplace, obviously, it's like, if for anyone who's ever sold, you got to take a picture of the thing, you got to write a description, you got to message people, you know, it's a bit of work. And then I came across some books that we had lying around, and I'm like, well, we have 100 books. There's no way I'm going to list every single book. It's going to take forever. So I YouTubed it, and apparently, I didn't know about this at the time, but you could download the Amazon app, which was a good way. You can download the seller app. You can scan the barcode of the book, and it would tell you how much it's going for on Amazon. So I'm like, that's interesting. Obviously, I didn't know about like things like Keepa and all that we're going to discuss later, but you could see the value of the book. And then I'm like, okay, so I was scanning books and I had a couple that were good value. So I'm like, oh, okay, now how do I send it in? And I ended up buying a book course for $99. And then I sent in some books after taking that course. I made a business, and then they sold. I sold a book lying around for like $150, which was really exciting, right? Like, I didn't know I had like a book worth $150 just collecting dust. So I'm like, you know, there's something to this. And then I'm like, selling books was kind of fun. So I went to the Quebec equivalent of like a Goodwill store. It's called Renaissance here. And I just started scanning books in the store. And then like from there, just started sending in books. And then from there, it grew to much more. We'll see.
So do you still, I want to ask, do you still sell books today?
I stopped selling books about a year and a half ago. I still occasionally though will go to a thrift store and do DVDs, so like a series, like a 4-pack or a 5-pack. Those still sell really well. So I still do that occasionally, but I've kind of moved towards just OA since when I started.
Okay, so because I think like for those who doesn't know about Amazon selling, so basically you online arbitrage or OA means like buying online and then flipping it to Amazon for a profit, right? So, but with you, like going to, if you go to a thrift store, that's called retail arbitrage, right? So,
Yeah.
so with you, you go from time to time just for fun, I guess, right? Because you don't need to anymore. But I also personally love going to thrift store because I think it's not just about the money, but it's so much fun to find things so
Yes.
cheap and then flipping it for profit, and you won't believe how much money it will make, right? Um, so I remember you telling me about the story of like the most, like how much is the most expensive book that you ever sold?
Ooh, the most expensive book. That's a good one. I think I've sold textbooks for as much as like $399. I didn't find those necessarily in a thrift store, but I have found really good books in a thrift store. Like I have found books that I've bought for $4 that do sell for like 90 or 100, which is insane.
Wow.
Yeah. So I did actually I did two things. So there's thrift stores to sell books.
Mm-hmm.
Then once I was noticing that I bought some textbooks at thrift stores that were selling for a lot of money. So we can talk about this too. Like at one point I decided to source textbooks, and what I did was, and this is maybe not something that everyone's done, but I joined some textbook groups in Montreal. So I joined McGill, Concordia, all the English universities, and I was buying people's textbooks from the previous semester before the next one started and flipping those. That is actually the thing that made me realize that Amazon was very lucrative. And that's when I really started believing in it, because I was buying like hundreds of textbooks and making $20-$30 a book. And I would see my sales and I was making like 2,000 in sales a day. That's when it really started to click for me that this is something that, can be done.
Wow. So yeah, so I think everybody like who started with Amazon, even me, I
Mhm.
also started actually with books because I think books is the cheapest way. So even with
Yeah.
$200, you can buy so much
Yeah.
of books already and flip it on Amazon, and that can give you like very lucrative profit, right? So that's a good way for us to practice actually. Like I think everybody, when you ask them, okay, what are the ways to make money on Amazon? How can, like, I don't have much, sell books. That's why
Mhm.
actually like my course, which is Start Grow Profit for beginners for Canadians, I actually put there a module just for selling books because I think that's a good way for people to start when they don't know yet what you're doing. So at least you don't lose money, especially now, right? It's summertime. There's a lot of garage sale. This is your chance to grab those books that you think like you can find. For me, I think one of the best book I've ever found is in a library as well. So in a library, I went to a library sale, and there's this one book that's about tattoo. And apparently this one, like it's really bad, like it's in bad condition, like everything is folded and stuff like that. But I think I bought it for $2 and sold it for 75. And I'm thinking like, who will buy this? But when I look at Kipa, I saw that there's people actually who bought it for really expensive, right? And I'm thinking, okay, I'll just send it. And I'm like, wow, like they really want it, right? You don't know who wants it. There's specific people who are collecting this kind of books. So I would what would you suggest? Like, so for those who are watching who's new and wanting to try books, what's the best category? Like, I mean, niche in the book that you would suggest? Like textbooks. What sold best for you? Do you remember?
If you can go to a thrift store and thrift textbooks, like if they have a textbook section, I would start there. Just have to make sure that like the piles have stuff that's more current, but I would definitely start there. Textbooks is definitely my favorite. But what I've noticed too is that, especially with things like DVDs, it's going to be the stuff that you may not think is good that's good. So stuff that's niche, like you just said, the tattoo thing,
Yes.
that's where the value is. So like when I go to, for example, I'll go a little bit off topic from books, but to DVDs, like The Simpsons, Family Guy, these things, the things that are really mainstream, that's not necessarily going to sell really well. But obscure series from like the 90s that's there that you may not even know exists, very high chance that the thing is going to be worth money to somebody. So
Yeah.
that's my advice, is the stuff that you don't know. If you don't know what it is, probably scan that thing.
That's very true, right? I always say also like the weirder the product, like the more like you never heard about it, the
Yes.
more that you should research. Even now for arbitrage, I when I see a product that's like kind of like niche. I love niche products because that's the one that nobody pays attention to, and
Yep.
that's the one that you can make the most profit, right? So
Yep.
so for me, my advice also is like self-help book. That's the one that really, aside from textbooks, I go for self-help. Like for example, those people with, like for example, um how to train a child with ADHD or something
Mhm.
like that. Those very specific topics, people would want them because they want to solve an issue, right? So that's amazing. So with you, in terms of Amazon selling, so you said that you're working only like part-time. So a lot of people wants to know, um, are you doing arbitrage only? Are you doing wholesale? Are you doing private label? What's your strategy with your business? What method are you using specifically?
Okay, so when I first started, it was 100% RA, and then I've transformed to basically almost 100% OA now. I think both methods are fun for me. It's just going to depend kind of on where you're at. Uh, they're two, I guess, skill sets that are a bit different, but now like I know what I'm doing with OA, and the reason I like it is that you can do a lot of, if you know how to do searches, you can do a lot of damage. Like the amount of dollars per hour damage you can do online is insane. Like I can spend 10K in a day online. Like it's not that hard to do. And you also get the benefit too of using things like Rakuten or like credit card points, coupon stacking. You can have crazy benefits. So that's the reason I do more OA now. But I do not do private label nor wholesale.
Yeah. So for the how many years have you been selling?
This would be year 5.
So your fifth year of selling, you really just focus on arbitrage, because a lot of people say,
Yeah.
"Oh, arbitrage is dead. Like there's nothing, there's no money to make there. It's a
Mhm.
lot of work." Like,
Mhm.
is it true for you?
Um, I don't think it's that much work, and I don't think it's dead, and I don't think it's that hard. I understand why people say that. I do, because I do help moderate some groups on Amazon, on Facebook as well. And I noticed that some people who do say that arbitrage is dead, or they do give that opinion, they're not necessarily the best sellers either, right? They're new people who are starting and they don't necessarily know. But my advice to those people is like, just be careful who you take your advice from, because there are a lot of 7-figure sellers who've been selling for 5-10 years who are making really good money just doing OA and still just do OA. So you should be more inclined to listen to those people than being influenced by people who tried it and failed. You know, I would be careful who I listen to. I put it that way.
That's a very good advice, because I think the key, like not all in this business will really succeed. A lot actually quit because they
Mhm.
think, a lot of them, they get the idea that, oh, Amazon selling is passive income, right? But
Mhm.
they don't, they when they found the Amazon, it's more of because they think that it's a passive income. You don't need to work, and then the money comes in, which is not true at all, right? That's something that, if you want to become an Amazon seller, you need to know that whatever you put into the business, that's what you're gonna get back, right? So
Yes.
if you want to work harder, you will also get like a lot of benefits from it. But if you're
Yep.
not gonna be consistent with your action, then also sales is not consistent, because you're
Yeah.
not sending consistently, right? So that's a really good advice that you gave today. Like I think uh new sellers should learn from that, right? Like with you, I know that you also have like issues. Like we talked about this before, about how during the pandemic, right? You and me had similar situation where we end up getting limited space in Canada. That's the reason
Yeah.
why you also venture in the US, right?
Mhm.
So with that, what's your learning on that one? Like with what happened, you could have give up, right? So what, but you didn't. So what did you learn from that experience? Because what happened is that we all, like me and you, have the same experience where Amazon suddenly limited
Yep.
our storage, because what happened that time is that COVID is happening, and then a lot of the warehouses having COVID, so they're closing it down. So with me, I have like, from, I think like 8,000, I forgot already like how big my inventory capacity is, and suddenly they say I can only send 3,000, meaning I need to sell out whatever I have before I can send, and I can send maybe 3 months. And if I if I just gave up on it and I didn't pivot, right? Like maybe I'm done also. So with you, it happened. So what did you learn from that?
Yes, that was a really good point. So I think this is where you see the people who are very successful on Amazon and separate the people who just had a bad experience is from exactly what you just said. So like in anything in life, when you're faced with like your greatest challenges and when things are perceivably, you could assign the meaning that that's a disaster. You have to assign the meaning that this could also be your greatest opportunity. And it actually is. I know it sounds cliche or like from a movie or something, but it was actually very true. So that thing that happened was a triple whammy. I got knocked down from an inventory of basically unlimited to 200 a month, and I was doing
Wow.
books, and 200 is not a lot because it's still a new seller. So I was way over my limit. I was already at 800 and it was all books and DVDs. So I'm like, okay, now I definitely cannot send anything in. That was one. The second thing was they said anything that's toy related, we're coming down on safety compliance notes, right? So they were just
Yeah.
like, I had to remove basically all my toys. They were like, unless you have a safety certificate that you're never going to get, you're going to have to remove the toys. So I had to remove the toys, and I couldn't send anything in. And they were also making it difficult, like anyway, to send stuff in because of COVID and the restrictions, right? You couldn't, even if you had the limit to send it in, it would take like 2 months to check in FBA. So it was like this triple whammy that happened at once. And nobody knew if COVID was going away or not, right? Like it was a thing where when it came out, you didn't know if it was going to last 2 weeks, a month, a year. We had no idea, right? So what I did learn was that, okay, well, I was only used to selling toys and I was only used to selling in Canada. Then fast forward 3-4 months, and I'm like, well, haven't really, my sales went from 50K a month to like 5K a month. It was just whatever DVDs
Wow.
and books were there. So it was like, that looks awful, right? But then I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, what can I do? So I'm like, you know what? People are swearing. I had some Canadian sellers who were telling me they swore by selling on .com. And I'm like, well, I haven't tried it, so let's try it. So I got a prep center because to send to .com is a bit differently. It's harder to send it from your house. It's much easier if you have a prep center who's next to the border to bring it across for you. So I got a prep center. I learned how to sell in the US, and I also had to learn how to sell in other categories other than toys because they were really coming down on toys. So I learned how to sell in like kitchen, tools, all this. I had to learn how to get ungated too. And that's a big part of like understanding how to get ungated and where to get ungated. And it's not what necessarily what everyone thinks. There's tricks to it. And because of that perceived disaster, it actually opened me up to selling on .com and selling in new categories that to this day I still sell in, and I prefer to toys anyway. So had that not happened, maybe I wouldn't be where I am now. So like at the time, although it seemed bad, it was actually a good thing. So I think assigning good meanings to things and being persistent and continuing even when things are a disaster or perceived disaster is a really important trait.
Wow, that's a really good advice. Yeah, like because I always believe that as well. I think that's the reason why I'm still here. I think the one who stays in Amazon are the one who knows how to pivot and also very positive in their
Yep.
mindset, right? Because we could have give up. Both of
Yep.
you and me could have give up that time. You lost a lot of from 50 to 5,000, and then
Mm,
all your toys you can sell. That's a lot of
yep.
money, and yet you still decided to push yourself to
Yep.
doing something else because it didn't work. Same thing as me. That's how I did it as well. And for you and me, it's the same thing. It was a blessing in disguise, right? Because
Mm,
if it didn't happen, I also never gonna be pushing myself to selling in the US as well. And now, as you know, selling in the US gives me like 5 figure in profit every single month. And if it didn't happen that time, I could have like give up and will never have this opportunity, right? So
yep.
that's a very beautiful learning. So you mentioned about ungating. I just wanna let other people know. So what is ungating? So ungating just means that when you are a new seller, you're not allowed to sell anything just yet, all the categories. Amazon wants to know if you are capable of becoming like a good, are you really a good seller? Is this really like something that you want to do seriously, or you're just dabbling in and stuff? So because of that, they would not allow you to sell on important things like, for example, groceries and stuff like that, right? And toys. So you need to get ungated. So in my course, actually, my course is A to Z. I also give them everything like suppliers and stuff for you to get ungated already, because I think that's one thing that was missing. That's the reason why I decided to create the course in Canada, because when I was starting, I also bought a course for US because there's nothing here, right? There's no information. And each time you buy, it's missing something. It keeps on like, okay, you need to buy again. You need to try this and that. And when that's the reason why I created an A to Z course that, okay, everything is given. Whatever, once you buy this, you will see the result. Like at the end of the course, you're already selling, you're making money. And I'm proud to say that my course is like that because I really want, if you're going to help people, might as well help to the fullest, right? So
Absolutely.
that's,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's where it is. Okay, so so with you, what's your style now? Like, because you're doing full OA, does it
Yeah.
mean that everything now is in the prep center?
Almost everything I buy goes to my prep center. I try to do it as much as possible. There are still, I'm from Quebec, right? So my prep center is in
Mm-hmm.
Ontario. If I do see deals in Quebec, and just as like a tip, like Canadian Tire is organized by province. So it's one of the few businesses that way. So
Mm-hmm.
like if you buy from Canadian Tire in Quebec, you have to ship to a Quebec address.
Yes.
Like you can't go from Ontario to Quebec or Quebec to Ontario. So when there's a Canadian Tire promo and there's good deals in Quebec, I'll still go to the store and pick it up, curbside pickup or
Mm-hmm.
ship it to myself. So I
Yeah.
still do some of my own shipments, but I try as much as possible to have my prep center do it just because it's much more easy to scale and it lets me focus my hours on sourcing rather than prepping things.
Mm-hmm.
But
So
I, but I used to prep a lot.
would
Yeah.
you say that it's like 90 and 10? So only 10% goes to your house and 90 is in your prep in the prep
Yeah,
center?
I would say at least 90-10, maybe even 95-5, something like that. Yeah.
Wow. So with you now, like what's your percentage also in terms of US and Canada? Like
Yeah, so it's varied quite a bit. So when I first started, it was 100% Canada to Canada.
mm-hmm,
Then after COVID, what happened was I started doing Canada to USA. So
mm-hmm,
it went from 100% Canada to Canada to balanced a bit, still Canada to Canada and also Canada to USA. Then I liked US so much, I just stopped selling in Canada, basically. So I was doing basically 100% Canada to USA like last year. And
mm-hmm,
now what I'm doing is I just started doing imports. So I would say 70% is Canada to USA, and the
mm-hmm.
other 25% would be USA into Canada. I
Okay, so you're
haven't,
also
yeah,
doing the flipping.
yeah. My edges are going to be from a country to a country, but not so
Mm-hmm.
much within the same country, if that makes
Okay,
sense.
because yes, because I also do the same with Canada to US. I really like when I started also selling in the US. I also do crossing to the border because, as you know, right, like US market is really big and there's so much competition. There's so much tanking, and if you don't find your niche, it's
Yeah,
hard to compete. You always lose money. So with me, that's what I also did, and I get so lucky with that 100%. No, not really, because I have an automation service that I have for US to US .com to .com, but it's not big. But most of my income actually comes also from Canadian products crossing to the border. That's why I also created the course for that, because I'm thinking I'm making so much money here. Why not spread the blessings to everybody? I decided to share whatever I'm doing also. Like I know like for you, I think you're a bit that's why you don't want to teach or anything, because there's really like, there's things that you do that if you do this you feel like, oh, like people will everybody will know already, right? But right, but for me, like, I'm okay with it. So I decided to tell everything in my course as well. What do I do? How do I cross it to the border and everything like that? So with you, like, you have also I think, like, what would you say about Canada to US? Like, are you really successful on that too? Like, is the profit better for you? Because with me, profit is way better, I think, as compared to Canada. But I like Canada for the stability, because with the US, I don't know if we have the same experience, but with me in selling in the US, they hold your capital is getting hold a bit more because it takes longer, right, to prep and then to cross it to the border, and then there's a limit of 800, so they kind of hold it, as compared to Canada, where you ship it, it's live, and then it's sold, the money comes in. So that's the
yeah,
reason why I keep on telling my students it needs to be like, go with Canada first, make it stable so that the money is always coming in, and then the US, once your Canada is stable and you have enough money, start opening US so that you still have cash flow, easy cash flow in Canada, and then the US can make more for you as well. Do you also experience that like it's a little bit like your money is a little bit more tied up with US market?
Yeah, so my answer to that is going to be, I think I definitely agree with you in the sense that it takes the check-in process. Like you can turn around to Canada, like if you do RA in Canada and you go to whatever stores today to buy everything and you're really motivated, you could prep it tonight, have it to Amazon, to UPS tomorrow, and have it check in 2 days.
Yes.
Right? With US stuff, it does take 3-4 days for it to mail out to your prep center. They may take like a week to prep it, then it may take a week to check in. So it is a little bit slower in that sense. You do win it back a little bit in the sense that the velocity in the US, if you find good listings in the US, they have 10 times the population of Canada. So things really can fly off the shelf in the US. And you also make in US dollars, which is nice,
Better.
right? You
Yes.
get that crazy exchange rate. As you said, for Canadians who are just starting, I totally agree with you that you should just worry about Canada to Canada to start, to keep it simple. But once you get to a higher level, I would say having a balance between Canada and US is the way to go, because you can balance out your US dollars, your Canadian dollars. Depending on where the exchange rate is, you can really start playing with the dollars and the exchange rate to favor exports or imports. Selling in the US also gives you opportunities to like, once you get, and we can talk about this later because I think you are going to mention it, like US credit cards, and then like having US addresses. And if ever you want to like start creating an income in the US, like it is kind of cool to have that opportunity to you, and it does open other doors. So I think selling in the US does make you a better seller too. So I wouldn't say, I would never advise someone to sell just in the US or just in Canada. Doing both is actually really, really nice.
Yeah, like, so I guess we're really on the same page of that. I think as a older Amazon seller, you and me are the same. Like I'm more than like 5 years and you're almost 5 years. So I think we experience the same thing. So we have same opinion, because for me, like whenever newbie is asking me, as much as I want to sell the US because really it's a lucrative thing, I always tell them like start with Canada, because Canada is the way for you to be able to practice without losing a lot of money, and you see the growth faster because it's the you can flip it faster, right? Because it goes really quickly. I love it. Like when I used to live in Mississauga, it's like really in 3 days, everything is like before. Do you remember how before it doesn't go live until they scan it in the warehouse? Now they go live the moment UPS scan it. I remember that, but because I live in Mississauga, it's so close. A lot of the prep center in 3 days, my products are live, which is like, it means money already, right? Like, so for me, I always tell my students, shipping equals money. So you need to ship constantly, right? So with you, since you work full time, a lot of people are curious, right? And I think this is the way for you to also guide the newbies who are also working full time. So what's your schedule? Like, how do you schedule it that you are making 550K a year and still working full time? You said on a busy time, you even work 50 hours a week. So what's your schedule? Like, how many hours do you work in a day for Amazon? Do you go to the store? Do you also work Monday to Sunday? What's your schedule like?
Okay, so I've been working my job for the past 5 years. So it's always been salary job, 40 hours a week, 9 to 5, basically, Monday to Friday. There are times of the year where it's going to be lighter than 40 hours a week, and like in the winter, because we're kind of in construction and we don't do as much in the winter. But in the summer, it's very intense. So it will go over 40 hours. So it's always been that way. However, I've always been like, look, I did engineering as an undergrad. I've always been really busy. Like when I was younger, I did a lot of things. I'm used to doing like, between everything I do, 80 hours in a week is like, I can make it happen, right? So the timing isn't really an issue for me. Also, I want to put a note, like I didn't do 550K in my first year. Okay. Like I did way less than that. So I built up the skills over time. But you do have to put in the work in the beginning. There's no getting around the hard work, at least for the first little bits, like the first maybe couple of years. Yes, you can work smart once you know what you're doing. I get that whole thing. You don't have to kill yourself working, but the first couple of years you do have to work kind of hard. So I would recommend, like, I would say, you know, if you can put in a good 20 hours a week, I think is the magic number. If you can find a way to hit that as much as possible, not every week, but most weeks, that's really going to help quite a bit. Like if you can only do 5 hours a week, it's gonna be tough. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna have to figure out the time. So like me, when I came home from work, like I work 9 to 5. That doesn't mean I can't work on my business, you know, eat dinner or whatever. I still have from 6 to 11, 5 days. That's 30 hours available. Then I have my 2 weekends. I got at least 12 hours available there. You still got 54 hours, right? So if you can take 20 of those 54 hours, that's not really asking for that much if it's something you really want to do, in my personal opinion. So
Wow, that's
you got to make it work.
amazing.
You got to make it work.
So do you still watch Netflix? I want to ask you that because maybe people say, okay, does David really like just work on Amazon, or does he have also a playtime?
Yeah, I try to have good balance. I cut out TV from my life 5 years ago. I don't watch TV anymore, and it was a really good decision. But I still play volleyball quite a bit. I play volleyball during the year indoor. I play twice a week. I still go out for beers with my friends. You do have to sacrifice a bit in this business, but there's also balance in life. I'm not just a workaholic who just works 80 to 90 hours a week and sacrifices everything. I don't think that's healthy, and I don't think that it's necessary either. But by the same token, you do have to, you know, you do have to make some choices. So maybe if you're used to going out, you know, 5 times a week, maybe you got to cut it back to 1 or 2, right? Because sometimes when I go out with my friends, it's like, this is cool, but like I don't need to go out this much. I don't have to see them that often, right? So I try to be like, what's going to be the best decision for me long term? And a lot of the time now, it's going to be like, you know, like you're putting 10 hours in your Amazon business a week, and you do that for 50 weeks, like it's going to make a big difference in 2 years. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. And I think that's what it is, right? If you want to become an entrepreneur, you need to change your life. It's not the same anymore as an employee. You're not an employee, you're an entrepreneur. So what does it
yes,
mean? You need to be responsible of your own actions. Nobody will tell you anymore, do this, do that. You need to train yourself to do it without other people or anybody telling you what to do, right? And I think that's good. And I know you love to travel, so you make sure that you always travel. So do you have a VA who help you? Because I wonder, like you have a full-time job, you work like you're 1 month, like basically like you do everything, you make this amount of money. Is there any help, like other help? Like with me, I have VAs. So how about you? Do you have VAs who help you?
I don't. I don't have any VAs. They probably could help with certain areas of the business. There's no doubt about it, but I don't have any VAs. I just have a prep center, and occasionally I've employed a couple of my friends to help me here and there with some stuff. But honestly, it's mostly a one-man show plus a prep center. That's it.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. And I know that you're very organized. So with you, the way you organize things, you like worksheets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You're really like, I think that's something that a lot of newbies needs to learn, right? To be very disciplined in terms of work, or else you won't see the result that you want. And as you said, put the effort now in order for you to see the results sooner, right? The more time you put now, the better that it's gonna be in the. Because imagine that, right? Like a lot of my students, like when they start after a few months, like I have an interview coming up, and she's a newbie, and I want to interview her because I just want to show like how a newbie also can make it happen. Because with her from February, she's dabbling, and then she attended our mastermind. Like in a few months, she made 8K in sales, and that's very quick. In a regular one, like you won't, like when you have a brick and mortar, usually you spend more money first in the beginning, right? And here it is, we have Amazon that can have unlimited possibility, right? So that's amazing. So with you, what made you stick with arbitrage? Like instead of, a lot of people went to private label, a lot of people also just decide to do wholesale. Like I have one student who's really doing well and already making millions, more than 1 million a year. And with them, after few years of doing arbitrage, and now they're completely wholesale. So with you, what made you decide to stick with arbitrage?
That's a good question. So part of the answer is going to be everything like about private label doesn't appeal to me. It does appeal to some people, and I think also on social media, if any of the business models are going to be really marketed towards people, I feel like they get oversaturated with private label. I don't think it's impossible to succeed at private label, but I do think it's quite difficult, and it's like you got to go find a product, bring it here. If Canada even accepts it, you got to make the brand, you got to pay for the advertising. I think it's a big smoke show. I think it's like people don't realize what they're getting into and how challenging it is. And I'm just like, I can just make money buying a brand name product right now that's already doing like 20%, 30% profit. So let's just do that. It's just way easier. I'm not opposed to doing wholesale. It's something that's on my list of things to do. But I will say that I do follow some seven-figure sellers on YouTube, and they have the business model that like they're doing the volume I want to do in the future, just doing OA. So I'm like, okay, if they can do it and they don't need to diversify out, I don't have to do that. It's something that I could do, but for now, I'm like, let's just do OARA.
So you really enjoy OA. So me too. I
Yeah.
actually goes back and forth. Like wholesale is not a guarantee that there's no tanking. That's the truth. Like a lot of people think like whenever people inquire with me, they always say like, oh, I only want to do wholesale because wholesale like it's more guaranteed and I'm telling them, I try to explain to them that it's not. Actually, with wholesale, you will invest a bit more money as compared to arbitrage, where you only invest, you know, $20 on one product to test and then see what happens, right? And with wholesale, I have wholesale that I used to buy $10,000 per buy, and suddenly there's this one big wholesaler who wants to just make $1 each, and we all got shut down, right? And guess what? I don't buy it anymore. So what does it mean for me? Like it's the same. Arbitrage and wholesale are basically the same. It's just that wholesale products are more accessible. Like you can get it in big quantity as compared to arbitrage. But I don't know if you tried wholesale a bit, but there's suppliers who's even more expensive than Walmart, and Walmart is the best price. So I still go to Walmart because of the price, right? That's the truth about wholesale and arbitrage. Yeah. So okay. So tell us how much do you generate in income per month now? And are you okay to tell us about also the profit that you make, like for your business?
Yeah, sure thing. So I average about, last year I did 550, so that's 45K a month. Now I'm probably on my better months, like 50 to 60K a month. I think a safe estimate would be 20% profit. So about 10K profit per month.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's
you
nice.
can never even get it from your, I don't know, like I guess as an engineer, you make good money, but at the same time, how can you find $10,000 just like that, like as a side hustle, right? For profit already. That's really amazing. And with you, with that profit, right? So with in terms of how much you make every month, do you plan to scale up more?
Yes, absolutely. So the profit that I get from the business, I 100% reinvest into it. I keep what I make from work for my personal expenses and everything else, but everything in the business, I really do keep in the business to make it grow. And my big goal is to at least get to 150K in sales per month and generate about 30K a month profit. That's my actual goal. So that's what I'm aiming for. Yes.
And are you gonna quit after that?
I told myself that I would entertain the idea of quitting if I had to. At 100K a month held for 3 months, I would entertain the idea of possibly quitting. And then at 150K in sales per month, I would probably most definitely quit. But I would make sure that like I'm doing it for the right reasons too, right? So if I was able to do I still like engineering. I like my job. Some people don't like their job. I do actually like my job, and I do like what I do. But it gets to a point where, you know, you're making enough money, it makes more sense to do other things with your time, like travel and, you know, enjoy life too, rather than just work 60 hours a week. So yeah, I could see myself like not having to do engineering probably in a couple of years.
Wow, that's amazing. And with you, like, are you okay to share with us, like maybe you can share to the audience, like what categories do you sell? Are you okay? Are you comfortable to share it? Because maybe 100%. they want to get an idea. Like it's funny because like with me, I have a very different category. Maybe you also have a different. So at least they have a comparison that, oh, in this category, they also sell, right? Like they might be shocked of what category do you do?
Yes. So when I first started, it was books and then DVDs. Then I went into toys. I did like 95% toys. And now after that compliance stuff, I really backed off on toys. Now, currently, I would say I do home and kitchen, tools, beauty, a little bit of sports and outdoors, very little bit of grocery, and I still do books and DVDs. So those are the main ones I do. Of all those categories, my favorite is probably tools. I would say
Tools.
of all things, yeah, tools has been my
Wow.
favorite. It's gonna be my favorite. It just has the least amount of returns, and like good profit margins, and like I just love that. I didn't think I would like it, but I tried it, and that's definitely my favorite. Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting because
Yeah.
with me, I love groceries, and I guess it's a man thing and a woman
Yeah,
thing, right?
maybe.
Like
Yeah,
with
it could
me,
be that.
because like I buy groceries for the house, so I'm more attracted to that. And here you are, more attracted to those kind of things. So with
Mhm.
you, what do you do with returns? Because I know, like for me, one of the things that keep me from buying like expensive things, because I know tools are expensive, home and kitchen might be more expensive in that sense. Like, how do you deal with returns?
Okay, so this is a great question. So I'm gonna give you guys the honest breakdown because I feel like not a lot of people talk about this. Part of being a good Amazon seller is you have to be able to control the returns if you want to be profitable. It's just part of the game. It's normal to get like probably around 5% returns. And this is probably also a good reason why you want to start in Canada, because the returns from the US back to you in Canada, it's a bit pricey, and but you have to do it because I do sell high ticket items. So like today, my friend was helping me and we're going through like these coffee machines that are being returned and like juicers and God knows what. Um, you got to put time to it. You got to go through them one by one. Or you got to find somebody that can do it for you. But you have to go through them. And this is where you're going to get good at either reselling them as new if you're allowed to, and it's actually unopened. Actually, I don't know if people know, but when you get returns, they have a license plate number on them. It's called an LPN. And then you have a comment list. And then you can look at the LPN and see what the customer comments are and the return reason. And then based on that and what you actually see in the product, you can take an action. So sometimes the action is, like I said, sell it new. Sometimes it's sell it used. Sometimes I open it and it's missing a part that I have to order the part, and then I can sell it used or sell it on Marketplace. And sometimes the customer is just not a good customer and they're actually fraud. So in these cases, it doesn't happen that often. But today I had a good example of one. I had a Ninja blender that I sold, and they returned me a blender that isn't what I
No.
sold. It's a completely different base and everything. And I'm like, this is just blatant nonsense. So in these cases, what you have to do is that you're going to have to get good at, and I've had success in the past where I take pictures of the item. And when I create the case to Amazon, you have to word it in a certain way that they're going to do something about it. So you have to hold Amazon accountable to their own terms of service. So if you actually go on the Amazon website to the customer section for returns, they actually have policies by item. And you can actually copy the wording of that item and say, this is in violation of this. And you hold them accountable to exactly like copy paste it and tell them, please reimburse me because they can't do this, insert reasons why. And when I use the wording of this, I actually usually get refunded for it. But you have to
Wow.
know how to word that. And this is what people don't
Yeah.
teach this normally. This I had to find this out on my own. But you can get your money back from Amazon, but you're gonna have to be persistent and you're gonna have to word things correctly to be able to do it.
That's a very good advice because yeah, like if you quote them in their own policy,
Mhm.
most likely they would adhere to it because you
Yep.
already show them that this is what you said
Yep.
and you're supposed to follow that as well because that's your own policy, right? That's a very good advice in doing returns. So would you like would you say that because you sell a lot of high-end products,
Yep.
would you say that the returns even out the profit, you still make good profit despite the returns of all these products?
Yes, I would say I still make good profit as long as my goal with most of the returns. Okay, some of them, they might be a loss, but the thing is, the ones that I sell, these high ticket items, there was a huge profit margin on them to begin with. So
Mm-hmm.
when I get the returns, most of them I can either break even or take a very minor loss on Marketplace. So what in effect happens once it's a return, to me, it's like the inventory is just gone. So at the end of the year,
Mm-hmm.
it's just
That's a
gone.
loss.
It's a loss, but I'm still selling it on Marketplace for cash. So the two kind of balance out. And then because I have large profit margins, it's like it's not being affected as long as I get close to break even, which is true for most cases. And usually what
Mm-hmm.
happens is sometimes the item genuinely is defective. Like I've bought Nespresso machines that get returned back to me that genuinely are defective. Like they genuinely
Mm-hmm.
were bought defective. I'm still the original buyer of it. I still have my original receipts from Canadian Tire. There's nothing stopping me, and I've done it before. I call Nespresso and I just be like, listen, this machine, here's my receipts. Here's what's the issue with it. And they've
Mm-hmm.
always replaced it. I've never had a problem replacing a defective machine anyway. So usually you're
Yeah.
not in that bad of shape anyway, to be
So
honest.
basically, with like, so that's one thing that you need to recognize for the viewers here, that if you are planning to like sell high ticket item, it's a little bit more of work, right? Like, because
Mhm.
you need to go a lot of like, for example, so if there's returns and stuff like that, and you need to do proper research on how to like, or buy extra parts, something like that. But the profit is worth it, right?
Yeah.
For other people. So for you, that's because for me, like that's one thing like that I don't like, because I don't have time to do all this. So I don't like selling things that can be returned to me a
Yeah.
lot. So I know some people who's really making really well with shoes as well, right? And those ones are also a lot of returns because of sizing and stuff like that. But other people have the time to also put an effort to make sure that they're still getting their money back, or like making still profit after all the returns. So I think for you that's the case, right? So okay, so if you were to advise newbies, okay,
Mhm.
like on sellers who wants to scale up, what would it be?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I actually have notes here, so I'll read them in order. I had 5 points. So the first point I wrote was be willing to learn new skills. When you first start something, it's normal that you're not going to know anything, so you're going to have to learn quite a bit. The second thing would be to invest in education. At a certain point, if you're serious about Amazon, you should be treating it the same way you would treat doing an undergrad in something. Like I did an undergrad in engineering, which is 4 years and a lot of courses. You should be willing to invest in your education. Like if you're willing to go to school and spend $20,000 to get a bachelor's degree, you should easily be willing to spend a few $1,000s on getting educated from a good coach on how to sell on Amazon. Like that should be going without saying. Like you do have to invest in your education. You shouldn't just try to figure it out yourself on YouTube. You should actually invest in education. The third thing, my advice is that, and it kind of goes with the first two, is to understand that you are a legitimate business owner. And for people that, I'll do a metaphor here, if you've never ran a business before, it's a bit like competing in the decathlon. You have to be good at different events. You're not just good at one thing. You do have the benefit, unlike the decathlon, to have people help you, consultants. You don't have to like necessarily be the specialist in it, but you do have to understand that you're running a business. So like on Amazon, there's sales, there's sourcing, there's logistics, there's law, there's accounting, there's customer service, there's software, there's communication, there's hiring sometimes of VAs and managing people. Like you're every department at your normal job. Like you're not just one department. Okay. So it takes a special person to be able to wear all those hats. So I think that's kind of important to realize that you're doing a lot of things, not just one. The fourth item I have here, it's a really important trait. I don't know if everyone's like this, but you have to be decisive. That means that when it's time to make a decision, you do the best you can with the information you have, even if it ultimately ends up not being the right one. You have to make a decision. So if you have a good product, you do the research and it's time to buy it, don't just put it in your cart or say I'm going to do it tomorrow. No, just buy the item and then go on to the next thing. So you have to be decisive and you have to take actions. And the more actions and decisions you make in a day, the quicker you're going to get to where you want to go. So the person who makes 80 decisions in a day is going to get to their destination way faster than the person who takes a month to make one decision. So you have to be decisive. And I also wrote to go with that. Part of being a good seller is knowing what works and why, but also what doesn't work and why it doesn't work. It's both are really important. And the last thing I wrote is to have a vision of what you want. So some of my friends, after seeing on Amazon, actually also started selling on Amazon, but their vision was different and it's totally fine. So they just wanted to make an extra 1 to 2K per month so they can just sell books and it gets them that, right? But other people might want to sell 50 to 100K per month. And if you want to do that, well, that's fine, but you have to know what you want and you have to put in the work to get there, right? So the effort required to get to 100K in sales per month is going to be a little bit different than to just do maybe 5K in sales per month.
Wow,
So
that
yeah,
that's really good. I love what you said, because I think that's one of the things that a lot of new sellers are, I think that's their mental block, because a lot of new seller, they don't think of themselves as an entrepreneur. They think that they're just dabbling. So what they do is like, they don't think like an entrepreneur, where like you're competing, as you said, with Decathlon, right? Like that you need to like, once you start to become a seller, you need to think that you're an entrepreneur. What does it mean? So as you said, invest in education, because this is like taking an MBA. A lot of people who take MBA, okay, for business, pays $30,000 just to get it. It takes 2 years before they will even make money, and then they take a loan, and then it goes into interest, and basically you pay a lot. And meanwhile, here you can invest few $1,000s, right? So for example, with me, I sell a course that I would sell for $1,497. I put it on sale. It's low. And what you're going to get is actually a business. And that's something that you need to recognize, that if you want to become an entrepreneur, you need to learn. And where do you learn? For those people who already have experience, who did it before, that will give you the system, right? Because if like, you can learn it on your own, and I did it on my own because I don't have money to pay for coaching before. Also, I really don't have money. So what I did, but it took me a while. It took me years before I become better, because there's a lot of trial and error. So if you want to become a real entrepreneur, you really need to accept that you are doing this seriously, not just because, oh, I'm going to try it for 3 months. It doesn't work. I don't want it anymore. So, so this is not for you, right?
Absolutely.
So if you are serious of becoming an Amazon seller, you need to learn first, know the system, practice, and invest on yourself, and become an entrepreneur. If somebody is not answering you, do your research. Why is it not happening? Why is my product, like, why is this happening? Why is Amazon canceling my order? And you can ask help. But if you are constantly like relying on other people for solution, you're not an entrepreneur yet. You need to learn on how to find answers for yourself. Then that's the time that you will say, okay, I'm an entrepreneur, and I know that I can scale up this business because I can manage it on my own most of the time, right? So, okay, so before I said, so there's actually a lot of questions, David. I hope you don't mind answering some of the questions tonight, because I think there's so many who's very interested. But before that, what are the tips or tricks do you use that give you additional perks as an Amazon seller? Because I know you have a really cool tip that you can give us today. What is it?
Yeah, I have a few here. So rewards programs at stores, number one. Canadian Tire and PC Optimum are insanely good value. I'll just say it that way. You can make thousands of extra dollars per year just from those two things. So those two I would look into. Credit cards is another big one. Before last year, I swore by just having one credit card with a $5,000 limit. I don't know how I did it, but I just used that. And then I'm like, I'm probably leaving a lot of money on the table here. So that's when I delved into the world of Amex, and their cards are phenomenal. They actually are pretty well accepted, believe it or not. I know some people say they're not accepted. They're accepted at like 95% of the places I shop at. And they have really high limits, so you can do a lot of damage. Like you won't be maxed out by a $5,000 limit, because some of my purchases can be 10K, right? So I mean, obviously be responsible, have the money to pay it off. You don't have to start, spending money you don't have. But Amex points come with a lot of benefits. You can also, like, the benefits are insane for traveling. If you always want to travel, like, you get airport lounges, you get like discounts on like hotels, free night certificates. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is the either the Rakuten to get cash back as a referral site, or people may not know about it, the Aeroplan eStore. These two are really cool. So the Aeroplan eStore, people may not know about this one, is like Rakuten, but you earn an Aeroplan points instead. And I've found that those points are actually more valuable even than the Rakuten. So you can earn insane points. So it gets you like free flights, like free hotels. So like a lot of the traveling I do is very close to free.
Yeah, I always see David's post, and he's in different country and in lounges and stuff. And one of the cool thing, like as you said, so basically David is talking about rewards points, right? So it was all, you know what, David, I'm really telling you, like, I put everything in my course. I have a module just for rewards points because I enjoyed it so much. When my co-coach Lace came here last week, I'm telling her, oh, that everything is from Canadian Tire for free, right? So those are the things that I teach them as well. So also I have free groceries all the time because of you know, with Shoppers Drug Marts, right? So those are the things that I'm really enjoying so much. So I teach my students on how to do it as well. So also with you said something about Amex. So let's talk a little bit about Amex because would you mind sharing, like, I know with, like, do you have a link for your Amex?
I do. Yes, I do.
Okay, so maybe send it to me and I can send it, I can post it later because with Amex, so if you guys don't know, so Amex has a business account. It's called a charge card, right? So with Amex, it depends on what kind of product are you buying. Like, so for example, like there's different kind of Amex, the gold. I don't know, within Canada, is it cobalt? Is that how you call it? What's the difference between those Amex cards? Because I know that there's platinum and then there's the gold. I think if you want to buy more on groceries, which one you need to get?
Yes. So all of the ones that you mentioned do exist. The ones that I personally have are platinum, the Aeroplan Reserve, and the cobalt. I just put them in the chat. I don't know if that's the right way of doing it, but
okay.
Anyway,
yeah, I'll copy that because I'm going to send it actually later on.
Okay,
so
great.
what's the difference?
Okay, so the cobalt is I think everybody in Canada, as just like a regular person, business or no business, the cobalt is a great card because it gives you 5 extra points on groceries as well as like restaurants and drinks. So 5x points basically means you're effectively, when you do the Aeroplan conversion, it's like getting 10% back, and there's no card in Canada that touches 10% cash back. So if you, like any Canadian who goes grocery shopping, or like it's just the card to have. So I would recommend getting that one. The other two that I have are the Aeroplan Reserve as well as the Business Platinum. So the Aeroplan Reserve is a credit card, the Business Platinum is a charge card. Those are like the elite cards. So if you're actually running a business, those are cards you want to have because they get you the most points for traveling, and you can put quite a bit of purchases on them.
Okay, so maybe if you have questions about this, I'm gonna post it after this in the group, and you guys can ask questions, and maybe David can answer you specifically if you have questions. But basically, the Platinum, American Express, one of the good thing with that is that they give you like a lot of free points in the beginning when you sign up. So basically, it has I think it has how do you call that, yearly pay, but the business will pay for it. So if you are already a big seller, the good thing of this is that they allow you to use their money for 55 days without interest, right? So that's the beauty of the Platinum card. And with that, you can already buy, if you are really good in research, which is, as an Amazon seller, you need to be, that's the best skill you can learn. Then maybe by the end of 55 days, you have the money to pay them, and you should, because charge cards means you need to pay at the end. So if you borrowed 10,000, you need to pay it 10,000 after 55 days, right? That's how it works. And in return, they give you points, and this points is the one that you can play around in order for you to have free hotels, free flights, and I'm a member of this like society for Platinum members, and it's so crazy. Like, it blows my mind what can you get out of these points, because they play around to make it, like, for example, a $7,000 like, you know, resort a week can already get you like certain point that it's like similar to like $2,000, something like that, right? Like that's the beauty of this one. So which one is, like, if you are focusing, for example, in grocery, which one would you recommend for the three of this?
That's an interesting one. I guess groceries, technically it should be the Cobalt if you buy
Cobalt?
groceries. I've never actually tried to buy groceries from Amazon on the Cobalt to make sure you get 5x. So just I would maybe do research on that. But I honestly, all three cards If you can,
R-
if the business is paying for it, all three cards are a good choice, to be completely
Really
honest with you.
good. So with you, you use all three
I
to
use all
switch.
three. I use the Cobalt more for personal stuff, to be honest with you, but the Amex Reserve and the Platinum, it's amazing because the business, like you said, pays for the annual fee, but you're enjoying the personal benefits
Yes.
more than the value of the card, way more than the value of the card. Like even if they're 500, 600 a year, I'm getting like in the thousands of value from the card.
Yeah, that's what I'm actually doing. That's why I signed up for it, because we're gonna start traveling as well.
Mhm.
And I want to get all those nice hotels for free. So with you,
Mhm.
what is the craziest uh I guess like benefit that you got from this, all the cards that you have? Like for example, did you like a hotel or a business class? Like what is the best like benefit that you got from this card?
Up to now, like I'm still pretty new to it because I just got them in November, but up to now, my favorite has been bringing guests to the lounge. Most people like I do go on vacations with my friends and I can get like, pretty cheap flights. And I can even book them on flights too. I've done it. And just to see like the smile on their face, because they've never been to a lounge before, right? But they're really happy when I bring them to it. It's just like it changes the way people travel and it gives them a whole new outlook on it. So being able to do that, and then also with the Aeroplan, like the Aeroplan points, when you use points and you get status with the card, because I spent so much, they give me 25K status, you get free e-upgrade credits. So when I went to Vegas at the beginning of this year, I upgraded to business class, basically using points that are for free. So like it's just really cool, right?
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's not for everybody. I think I would only suggest signing up for this one if you're already making money on your business, that it will pay for itself. Also, if you are very disciplined, that you can pay for it every single month, right? You know what you're doing. So, but if you're starting, don't do this yet. And also, if you like to travel, so this is the way for you to get perks without like personal perks from your business, right? So
Mhm.
okay, so I guess that's about it. So I want to, before we end, so let's answer all the questions that they have, right? So
Mhm.
let's start with Anita. I know that she's the last one, but she's like, what does it mean to bring them to the lounge? So I guess for some people they never heard about lounge. Can you explain? I'm also reaping this advantage. I also went to the lounge before already, but David, what's a lounge?
Okay, no problem. So airports across Canada, especially the bigger ones, they'll have airport lounges. So the lounges are usually after security. And there's different lounges. So you have like Plaza Premium, you have like Air Canada has their Aeroplan lounges. Sometimes like Desjardins will have their Odyssey lounge at Montreal. So there's usually every airport might have 3 to 5 different lounges, and different credit cards can get you into these different lounges for free. So the Platinum card, for example, can get you into like the Amex lounges, first of all, in the US, as well as into a lot of lounges here. And the Aeroplan Reserve will get you into any Air Canada Maple Leaf Lounge. And the benefit of the lounge is that you get free food and free alcohol. You get like a place to relax. So normally people don't want to go to the airport early. This is a reason to go to the airport extra early because you're getting free alcohol, free drinks, and a nice place to rest before your flight.
Yeah, and also
So
free
that's what lounge
food,
is.
right? Like
Free
so
food,
free
yeah.
food. Like for example, when we went to Dominican Republic this year, so their lounge is not as fancy, but at least it's
Mhm.
free aircon. So compared to
Yes.
like being in there, so that's one of the and then they have free food. It's only a snacks there. It's not as fancy, but my kids are happy that they're there and they have free Wi-Fi and
Yes.
chargers and stuff like that, right? So those are the good things. So lounges are, you can be all over the world. Like they have a priority pass, they call it, right, where you can be signed up and then they can give you access to this for free, right? So you guys can research it more. Okay, so let's go from the top. So I'm gonna start reading the question. So how do you research to know books that will sell? So did you
Mhm.
use an app before to research? With me, I used, I think, Scoutly, but I'm not sure if it's still relevant now. That's what I used before. With you, what did you use?
So I have 3 different ways of doing it, depending on which way you want to go. So if you're in store, what I do is I use Scoutly or the Keepa app. You can just scan the barcode in store, and I always look at the price that I'm paying for the book. I look at the buy box price that it's probably going to go for. I look at the Keepa history that shows how many drops and at what price. And then based on those decisions and how many listings are there, I'll see if it's a buy or not. The second way of doing things is from your home. So I used to buy textbooks from McGill in like Facebook groups. So what I would do is usually people post a picture of the book. So I would actually take my phone and scan my my screen, my monitor. And you can use the camera app in Seller Central to actually scan it and then pull it up to see if there's enough difference and you're going to make a profit on it. So this is another way of doing it. And the third way of doing it is, and this is what I do now too, you can also buy new books from either Amazon or whatever book and flip them. And this you can use with tactical arbitrage or Keepa or both online. So you can do all three of those ways.
Okay, so that's what you do. So you also can sell like new books, right? Because
Yes.
with thrift store, it's old books. Yeah, like
Yes.
especially on like niche topics
Mhm.
that you can find, like for example, special set that is gonna be cheap in, for example, Indigo, and you can flip it on Amazon. You can also do that, right? So those are
Yes.
the kind of things that you can. So, okay, so um Gina says, I think David is the king of points. He's always buying groceries for free with points and taking great vacation as well. Yep, that's the truth. Okay, does David use prep centers or do a combination of prepping himself and sending to the prep center? We answered that already. You do 90-10, right? So
Yep.
what percentage of sales do you sell in US versus Canada?
Yeah. So right now it's probably about 70% US on exports and 30% Canada on imports, something like that.
Okay. So you don't do any more like Canada to Canada right now, right? Like, so you're more
Yeah.
focusing on niche.
Yeah, I do it a little bit, but not predominantly. No, it's like you said, imports and exports, niche stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So how do you overcome small minimums when buying OA?
What's the small minimum?
It means that, for example, Walmart, right? Walmart only have, for example, max of 10 pieces.
Oh, okay. Oh, you know what? We didn't talk about this. This is a great question. Yeah. So let's just use. Then this has happened to me before. So, say you buy from Walmart or Jean Coutu or Shoppers Drug Mart. Shoppers Drug Mart's even worse. It's the maximum of 6. The thing to do here is to think outside the box. You can buy the 6, and I've done that before, but sometimes they get canceled. So the workaround is to get in your car and go to the store and talk to the manager and ask them, listen, I'm really interested in this item. Do you mind making me an invoice? And can you order a lot of this for me? Can you make me a special price? And I'll pay for it right now. So I've actually gone to like a Shoppers Drug Mart and asked them, because I was only limited to 6. And I said, how many of these can you order for me? I'll pay for it right now. And I had 3 SKUs I wanted, and I ordered 50 of each. So I spent like $5,000, which they've never seen before, at a Shoppers Drug Mart. They gave me a better price than what it was online. I got 1 receipt, so I didn't have to have 50 pieces of paper. And it was all ordered to the store in 2 boxes for me to come pick up. And I got to know the manager. So that's the workaround, is that you're going to have to start talking to the manager and think outside the box.
Very, very true. I think it's the power of relationship, right?
Mhm.
I also tell this to my students. You know, some like this, like I worked before in a supermarket, and this is how it works. So those manager also have minimum like sales that they need to hit every single month. And for them, sales is sales. There's few, like for example, they're gonna be like a regular employee that would say, oh, why are you taking a lot, right? Some people
Mhm.
like they complain about that, but guess what? Because it happened to us. But when it's like, I'm gonna call my manager, right? But guess what? When the manager comes, it's like, sell it to her, right?
Most of the
Because
time.
because they really need it. And if you are really like, if you are, that's what I always say, like, have a relationship with the manager. You start introducing yourself and say, because I have one also in Canadian Tire where he even gave me his calling card, and he says, like, I'll send you the email with the catalog, and then just tell me what you need, and then I'm gonna pre-order it for you, and I'll give you a discount. Because guess what? Sales is sales. They need to have some certain sales, and the manager are pressure, like the store manager is usually pressured to hit that number, right? And if you're gonna order a lot, that's a good number for them for a month. So they won't really usually turn you down, except maybe if they're just really like not nice, right? So, but I always have that's one of my strategy as well.
Can I
So
throw in an extra secret tip?
yeah,
I'll
sure.
throw in this secret tip. Also, when you get to know the manager of these stores, they can also make you a special invoice, not a receipt. So you can actually get an invoice from a retail store that's good enough to get ungated on Amazon. I've done it before, just so you know.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. So there's lots of tips tonight, guys. Like, I'm so happy with this interview because I think David is really giving you all the tips to like be ahead of other sellers by just listen. I suggest for you that after this, I'm gonna post a replay in my YouTube channel. Watch this again because every little thing that David is saying are golden nuggets, guys. Like, please rewatch this again. Okay, so best places to source. Are you willing to say that? Like, well, it's still general. Most of us, source at the same place.
Yeah.
So, okay, so what are the best places to source? What's your source?
Sure. So like honestly, this is gonna come down to personal preference. I don't have like anything like that's a crazy secret. I've sourced everywhere. Like when I first started, I really loved Indigo.
Mm-hmm.
Over my career, I've also done Toys R Us, The Bay, Canadian Tire. Like I believe a lot of these places are good. So it really comes down to what you like and what you're gonna sell. Personally, like, and this may sound weird to people who aren't haven't done it for a while. My favorite place to shop to sell on Amazon is actually Amazon. So I know
Amazon
that
to
sounds
Amazon
funny,
flipping.
but Amazon to go from, and I mean, you can do it from Canada to Canada, but I do mean from Canada to the US or US to Canada. That's my favorite way of sourcing.
Wow, that's amazing. And there's a special way to do it, guys. It's not like you're not allowed to do Prime. You're not allowed to do that. So make sure that you know what you're doing if you're gonna do Amazon to Amazon flipping. Okay. So just heads up because maybe they start buying through Prime and they get in trouble and say, "Oh, David said we're allowed to do
Don't do
that,
that.
right?"
No.
Okay. So okay. Um, does David use Google Sheet? How does he keep paperwork organized?
I do use them a little bit with certain prep centers. You can also use it too. I'm not a huge Google Sheets guy, but Microsoft Excel, I'm a huge guy. So I'm huge with Microsoft Excel. I'm very organized, I would say. When I source things, like I purchase quite a bit. So every receipt I have, I put a hyperlink with a number on the receipt. So if for whatever reason Amazon contests anything I say, I can use Control F, put in the ASIN, figure out all the receipts that I have by dates. I can open it up with one click and I can send it to Amazon. So, and I also have color coded stuff to know what has been shipped, what's outstanding, where I need action. So yes, I'm very big on Excel sheets and being organized.
Wow. Yeah, because with online arbitrage, that's something that you need to learn. You need to be very good with tracking, right? Because with online arbitrage, usually the product don't go anymore to your house, but instead it goes to the prep center. You don't know if everything was fulfilled. You don't know if something's missing, and you need to figure out if you are not very disciplined in tracking everything, this can be a problem for you, right? So you need to be very disciplined on that one, right? You need to learn on or create a system. Because for me, that's what's also with me. Everything now is in for us, it's Google Sheets. Like there's also Excel there that I share with my VA so that me and my VA can work together. Because for me, I don't have time to do everything anymore. So my VA are the one who's tracking everything from the prep center and stuff like that. Okay, so can David tell us how old is he? Okay, how old is he is? So how old are you, David?
I'm 36.
Wow.
Yeah.
So single, no kids?
Exactly, yes. That's true.
Wow. So guys, like, so whoever is single there, like, look at that. David is so successful. Amazing. So I guess for people who might, some people might say, hey, oh, okay, that's the reason why David can do everything because he doesn't have kids. So that's why he can achieve that. Do you think that's true? Like, you're having this much success, or you have, you can make this much money. It's because you have all the time in the world.
I mean, there could be an element of truth to the fact that if you have kids, it does make it harder. But no, I disagree with that overall. If I want something in life, I get it. So it's not going to matter the circumstances for me. So kids, no kids, it's not gonna change my mentality.
That's amazing. Okay, so hi David, are most of your products are in the buy box? If so, how do you compete with regards to pricing and such? So I think what she means is that, like, do you need to always compete with the buy box, or your strategy in terms of selling, or do you wait out?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I'm unlike most sellers, I'm pretty far behind them in that category. I actually don't have a repricer. I probably should get one, but
You don't have a
no,
repricer.
I'm one of the bigger sellers that
Wow.
actually doesn't have a repricer.
And how many ASINs do you have? Like, you,
Yeah, like maybe I think it's doable to do how I'm doing it with like 100 or less ASINs, which is about what I have.
okay, so
Uh,
100 and without repricer. That's amazing.
yeah, so my strategy is I kind of look at the listing and the ones that when I make my buys, I'll go to the listing to see if I want to reprice it or not. I look at the stock my competitors have. I look at the velocity and then I say, should I wait it out or not? Most of the time I wait it out. If I need to match the price, I'll match the price manually. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I probably should get a repricer at some point to help at least with that. But it's manageable right now to do it the way I'm doing it.
Yeah, but I think you will see like some, if your strategy, I think, is to wait out. I
Mhm,
think repricer won't do that much for you,
mhm.
because you only basically use repricer so you can constantly get the buy box. But if your strategy is to always wait out because it's fast selling, then I don't think that you need it, like, at
Mhm.
this point. So it depends on your situation, right? But wow, so I'm really impressed on how you work full time,
Mhm.
okay, and then everything is OA, and you don't have a repricer that helps you,
Yeah,
and you still make this much money. I
yeah.
think that's awesome. Like, you are one of a kind. Okay, so as you mentioned, it's pricey to have the return ship from US and Canada. Yes, it's pricey. That's the reason why I think you need to know what you're doing, and you need to make enough. I think you need to make enough profit in order for you to do like Canada to US, right? Like, do you have a prep center even to help you out with your returns, or completely you ship it back to Canada?
So up to the last like year and a half, I'm shipping him back and doing it myself, which is expensive, and it's not necessarily the most efficient way, but because the items are so high ticket, you can't just dispose of them. It's just stupid to
Yeah.
do that. But right now, I actually found I had a referral sent to me that handles returns within the US. So I'm trying him out. I'll let you know, maybe fast forward, you can touch base again in like
Mm-hmm.
Q4 and I can let you know how
Mm-hmm.
that goes. But the benefit of that is the returns are going to be, it's free to like basically almost free to within US to like have him get the returns, right? There's no shipping really
Mm-hmm.
there other than maybe a little dollar for whatever per item. But hopefully that will take a lot of time off my hands and free up that. So I'm having him handle my returns in the US and we'll see how that goes. But
Yeah,
those services
because
exist.
I think
Yeah.
I think you can really do like a prep center who can check and then know how the product is, and then sell it as used as well, sending it back to Amazon to just make even like a
Yeah,
bit
you
of
can.
profit.
I've asked that to some prep centers. Most of them don't do it to the like they'll kind of do a physical check, but they won't actually open it and go through it and make a more hands-on approach. Like I physically will
Mm,
open it and then see the missing parts. It's actually
yeah.
kind of hard to find that. This is why this guy that I found, like I think he does what I think he's gonna do. So I'm gonna test him
Mm-hmm.
out and we'll see how it is. If not,
Mm-hmm.
we'll go back to the drawing board. And if there's enough people who need that kind of service, I've already mentioned this. I have an Amazon coach too, and it's definitely something missing. So this would be something to maybe start, is to have somebody who actually does what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a good news, because I think that's one of the hard part for that's why for me I also sell high ticket and a lot of low ticket. So in case I don't need to worry about returns, but high tickets, I ship it also to a prep center
Mhm.
who help me either repackage it and stuff like that. So okay, where um where do you see the LPN number on Amazon? I think you mentioned this before.
I'm not sure if they're asking where to find it on Amazon. It's under Amazon. I believe you go to fulfillment reports, return reports somewhere there. I'd have to go look at it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if you're asking that, there's a report that you download into Excel by dates that'll tell you all the LPNs and their comments. Then the LPN number itself is either physically on the item, it's a sticker on the item, or on the outside of the box that the item came in.
Yeah. In case for those people who don't know, what is LPN number?
So it stands for license plate number. So every return that Amazon makes will be assigned this unique number. And if you ever need to open cases, whatever, that number is unique to you. So this can also happen too, as a funny question. You can buy stuff new from Amazon that was already a return that has an LPN on it. And if that happens to you, it did happen to me actually, you can just return that and get reimbursed for it because it was already a return product. It wasn't a new product.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so thank you so much. So does your prep center in Ontario ship to you to the US for you, or do you use third-party service?
I don't do FBM. It sounds like an FBM question. They ship, the prep center is the third-party service that takes my items from, say, Walmart or whatever, and then they repackage it for FBA and Amazon in the States. So they're the third party that does it for me, but I don't do like FBM with them. So I'm not sure if that was the question or not, but they do the packaging to FBA USA for me or Canada.
Yeah, so same thing as me. Like I also have a prep center that do everything for me, prep it for me. They have connection with a company who cross it to the border and ship it to the warehouse in US, right? So what coaches do you recommend? So I guess you're talking about education and stuff. So maybe she's asking if you're a newbie, like what kind of coaches do you need to look for?
I personally know people. I look, if I don't know if I'm gonna name drop exactly, but different people are good for different things. Like the coach that I have now is really good at like, I think he's better for more intermediate advanced sellers. I think from what Cheryl's described, I haven't actually taken Cheryl's course, but I think she does probably have one of the better ones for people who are just starting. The people that I personally know, I think they're really good at like a non-beginner level. But I think the course that you offer is one of the few I've seen that actually caters to people who are just starting.
Yeah.
So depending where you're at, it's I would recommend anybody that's, if you see people in the Canadian community posting about coaching and you just ask for a few references, I think you're going to find the right courses, if that answers the question.
Yeah, because like you need to know where you are in the business to find the right coaches for you, right? So for example, if you're new, it's better for you to take arbitrage in the beginning, and then maybe if you want to incorporate it with for example, wholesale, then you go for a wholesale coach. And then if you're ready for a private label, because some people, they love private label, and maybe the ultimate goal is private label, then look for the coach. So the only advice I would do is, like as David mentioned before, make sure that the one that you're signing up for are the one that you know have a good review at least, or people recommend them, because there's so many coaches out there, right? And some are good, some might not, because especially for private label, it's so crazy how much coaches are there now saying like how easy it is to sell private label or to start private label. And I feel so bad for people who end up signing in that. They don't say that actually it's the hardest part of Amazon selling, if in terms of method, because you need to invest a lot of time, effort, money before you can even make money, right? As compared to us doing arbitrage, where money is almost instant. As long as you know how to do proper research, then you will end up making money every single month. Even like I have a student who made 30,000 in his first month after he took my course. 30,000, and I was like blown away.
That's
but
insane,
he have the money to invest, right? He's one of the best students I have, and that's the reason why I always say I cannot tell you like about how good I am or how good it is, because different students will have different ways of learning, and they're gonna produce different results, right? Some are really like gonna take off, and some are not. So it depends on you, right? At the end of the day, it depends on you on how it's gonna be. You can give them the system, you can teach them everything, but the execution is gonna be from them, and the effort, right? And of course the capital, the more money you invest. So with you, how much did you start? Like I wonder how much money did you start when you were starting, because some people might not have much money. I wonder how much did you invest in the beginning?
Yeah, very little. I was like broke at the beginning, like probably 500 to 1,000. Like I just really focused on like DVDs and books, because you can buy them for like $2 to $5 each. $500 goes a long way when you're doing DVDs and book flips. Like you can buy like 100 DVDs, right? So like it's you don't need that much money to start. But when you want to get into OA and start doing like, you know, deep 6 figures a month, then yes, then it gets a lot more capital intensive.
So
But you
would
don't
you
need it to start.
would you say you also capitalize on credit card in order for you to be able to scale up?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I'm not okay. Look, there's some people who are extreme risk takers and like they will max out their charge card to amounts they don't even have yet under the presumption they're going to make that sale. I don't take it that far. I always spend what I have. But yes, you can. I really put a lot of my credit card.
Yeah, so me too. That's how I started because I also don't have money in the beginning. And I just said to myself, you know what, let's use other people's money in order for us to work full time on Amazon. And I don't recommend that for everybody, as David said, only if you are disciplined to pay for it or consider it as a loan, right? Like think of it as a loan, you pay it for a certain amount of time and then use them in order for you to be able to have income every single month. Okay, so I think it's almost done. Let me just see. Wow, there's so many questions for you.
I don't mind, Cheryl. I don't mind if you want to ask them all. Go ahead.
Okay, so other than high ticket products, which criteria is taking into account before placing an order? Sales per month. Some people look for over 200 sales per month. I don't like, okay, so for you, they're saying like, what are the criteria you go for? So do you go only for product that's like fast selling? Like example, she said some people look for 200 sales per month. I don't know what you do, but is that how you do it? Or you also sell like slow selling but high profit?
For me personally, I look at probably, I don't know, like probably like 5 to 10 things. The biggest one is just to make sure that demand is bigger than the supply. So if if there's nobody there and it sells 5 units a month, well, the demand is still bigger than the supply. So I wouldn't ignore that. If you're selling something that sells 200 per month, but there's 5 sellers who have 400 in stock of each, I would say the demand is way lower than the supply. So that's not the most accurate metric. Yes, you want to have velocity, but it's really the velocity with how much stock people have and the stability of the buy box history. So those two are very important. Then after that, you have to look at things like how big is the item? Am I comfortable with this? Is it a dangerous good? Is it meltable? Is it fragile? Could this hurt somebody? You know, maybe you don't want to sell a knife. Maybe you don't want to sell certain products. Like there's going to be personal things there too, right? So I look at a few things, but demand being exceeding supply, most important criteria, whatever that is.
Thank you for that. Yeah, so for me, I also have like some products, for example, that only few sales in a month, like less than even 10 drops. Like I would see it in Keepa, and yet it makes so much money, and I try it and it sells actually. It's just because it's not always available. Sometimes it's also like that. Like I don't like, for me personally, I don't know with you, David, but for me, I don't believe in, usually I don't look for rank because I know that rank depends on like the availability of the product. So for example, I have one that would be 1 million and suddenly it's just because they're overpriced. And then when I price it better, then it sells faster and I'm the only seller. So I like finding that kind of listings. So for me, I also don't go just because, I only need to have something that sells like 100 a month. So I have like one of my high ticket item in US, it only sells like, if you look at the Keepa of it, 7 a month, like drops in Keepa, and yet I make 170 per piece. And the reason why it's like that is because I'm the only seller or only 2 of us, and one is FBM, and it's usually not available. So whenever I'm not available as an FBA, there's no sale, right?
Yeah.
So Keepa is tracking it as nothing there, right? So, but I make 170, one are like 260 a month per piece, I mean, for that kind of product. So for me, I would say you're limiting yourself into like finding products if you're gonna go after just a fast selling product.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Cheryl. That was well said too.
Yeah. So do you want to be on the fast track at Amazon, or do you want to take years to get there? That's an interesting question.
I'm not completely sure I understand the question, but
maybe what she means is that do you want to like do you want to be like to learn as fast as you can, or maybe this is pertaining, I think Gina is talking about when you said about education. Maybe this is what it is. When you were talking about education, that education or getting a course or learning a course
Yeah.
would take you to do fast track your Amazon learning as compared to take you years because you're
Oh,
just
yeah.
doing
Okay. In that context.
trial and error.
Oh,
Maybe
okay.
this
Okay.
is what it is, right?
Okay.
Yeah, maybe,
If that's the question. Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
My question would be like, well, okay, look, now when you're doing 50K in sales per month and you're making 20% profit, to invest 5K in coaching is really a joke. It's a no-brainer. Okay. In the beginning, I was a little bit more discerning because it was a lot more money. But I will say when I invested in my coach, when I first started, when I didn't have that much money, it was an incredibly good decision because you have to remember that I wanted to commit to it. And you don't know what you don't know. I think you're going to hear that quote quite a bit. And that coach is going to shave off like literally months, if not years, of you doing the wrong thing. um it's a really good investment. Like even if it's a few $1,000s, you can make that back anyway, even if it didn't work out. But it's such a good investment. The upside of the coaching is so much greater than the downside that I think it's really important to invest in it.
yeah. I also believe like with me, if I'm gonna go back to where in the beginning, if I have all the money in the world to start, I would have get a coach as well. But during that time, I can only afford actually a course which is not even Canadian. So that's what I did, and then I just keep on buying little courses to teach myself on how
Oh,
to do it because with YouTube, it's yeah, there's a lot in YouTube, but it's not complete, right? So I want
yep.
somebody who would teach me. But now that I have the money, whenever I want to learn something, actually, I'd rather buy a course than a book. Like
100%.
right, I don't buy books anymore, but I like to learn so many things in different topics, and I would look for a coach who's teaching a system, and I would buy that because it saves me so much time. And I know that it already works because I would go for a coach that have proof as well, right? Showing like, what the results are, and it helps me so much. That's how I do it now. I don't read a lot of books. If I listen to like I do like summary on YouTube for books when I'm doing dishes and stuff. But a lot of the things I listen to are courses, like to learn from other coaches or other people who did it like that certain topic. Okay, so let me see. Do you source more manual or you use a website like Tactical Arbitrage? What do you do, manual or more of a software?
In my history, I've done all of them. Right now, I would say the main ways I source is going to be a mix of storefront stocking, which is using tactical edge as well as tactical arbitrage. That's one way of doing it. It's not the only way, and you shouldn't just do that. I also use tactical arbitrage to do searches, be it reversed, wholesale, or just a forward search. Those are the two. But I also do manual sourcing when there's sales, like Canadian Tire will have a 30x sale or whatever. It's hard to
Mm-hmm.
really have tactical arbitrage do that because those sales come out, the day of, and you have to make
Mm-hmm.
decisions. So I just go to the Canadian Tire website and I filter by the site. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're the same way as me, but after doing sourcing for 4 or 5 years, you have an eye towards what you think is going to be profitable.
Yes.
And usually I'm right. And I will profit on those things to do manual sourcing to get certain items when they're on sale for sure.
Yes, I think that's one thing that I always tell my students, and I know I always tell them that I know right now it's hard, and that's the reason why you're here with me because I'm trying to teach you on how to do the proper research. If you practice every single day, all the time in 1 year, it's not anymore about the research, right? Like you have a feel already
Yep.
on which one we're gonna take off and not. Like just one look, right? I think with
Yep.
you also do the same. You go to the
Yep.
store, you say, oh, that one might be okay. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
and sure enough, it's those kind of products. I'm also in that level already, and I think that's one thing that you guys should all like the listener to try to achieve. It's gonna get better for those of you who are
Mhm.
starting. It will gonna get better, and just like learning in a new job. Right now, you're in a learning phase. You need to learn every little details. But as you grow as a entrepreneur, as an Amazon seller, it will get easier. And even in your sleep, you know what's gonna sell, right? You just know to do the proper research, and you're gonna be better as well. So that's one thing that maybe you can learn tonight is that it will get better. So don't
Mhm.
worry, you're gonna get there. Just keep on pushing, right? So um they're asking you who's your prep center, so maybe you can recommend. So with me, I use Red Hat Prep. So who do you use for prep center?
I also use Red Hat Prep. From the research I've done, I've developed a really good relationship with them, and their prices, I haven't seen anybody beat them on price, and their service is amazing, and they've upgraded their website. I personally use them. They're not the only one. There's other versions that I'm sure are good. I have another one in Quebec that does, it's called Ship Pro Solutions for people from Quebec. I don't use them for prep, but they do take stuff across the border. So if you do your own prep and you're from Quebec, this guy's great. So if you need something to get across, he does do prep as well. But that's maybe someone that people don't know about. I think he's lesser known, but I do use them as well.
Okay, that's good. So we're both the same. Yeah, I really love Red Hat Prep with I tried so many prep center as well, several, and they're my favorite. And I like the new website that they have because I can upload by bulk. I love it because it makes life easier. And I trained my VA to do everything for me already, so I don't do anything. I just tell her, okay, this is what's coming, and you do the rest, right? So that's beautiful, right? Like when you can do that, you like, I think that's one thing that a lot of newbies should try to achieve, is to be on a position where almost everything is automated, because it will save you time, right? So what is a prep center? So Alan, prep center just means so when you are selling on Amazon, if you buy a product, you need to prep it, meaning like make sure to pack it in a way that it will arrive in a pristine condition, that it's not going to break when shipped to your customer. It's your responsibility. So for example, if it's a glass, you need to put it in a bubble wrap, or if it's like, for example, a toy that's open, you need to put it in a poly bag so it would stay clean before shipping it to the Amazon warehouse. So if you don't have time to do that, like me and David, we use a prep center that we pay per piece. For example, with Red Hat Prep, they charge, I think, 79 cents per piece. They might increase it already, but that's the ongoing rate there. So different prep center will have different rate, and they will basically prep it for you. So that's why it's called prep center, and they're the one who's going to ship it to Amazon. So for me and David, what we do is we buy online, we ship it to the prep center will prep it and ship it to the FBA, and then from the FBA, Amazon will do the rest when someone buys on Amazon. That's what a prep center is. Okay, so how do you I don't know what this, how do you know the velocity? Be cool, David. You're missing out on sales. Worth it. David, if you're gonna get, I have a link also for affiliate link for Be Cool. But yeah, you're missing on things, I think. I have a feeling. Let's see. Okay, what's your average sell price?
Yeah, it's probably at least 100. I would say between 80 and 100. I have a mix of high ticket and like low and medium ticket, but it's somewhere in there.
Okay, so you're really but I think high ticket is not for everybody, right? Because it can get so stressful also when there's a lot of return. I think that's the reason why I don't do that. But with you, your tolerance, I think, for risk is there. That's why you can deal with that, right? Is there a list of Canadian coaches anywhere? There's no such thing as list. You just need to research for it, because with me, that's what I did also. Just research to like go to different groups, right? And research for a coach. So are you a sole proprietor or incorporated?
Unlike most people who are corps, I actually am a sole prop. One day I probably will become a corporation, but we'll see.
Wow, you're still a sole prop?
Yeah, still a sole prop. I think it's easier, but I'm probably leaving a bit of money on the table. I have to sit down with my CPA, and we'll see when it's the right time to do it. But yeah, I do have to convert over at some point.
Yeah, I would recommend so, because just to give you an idea, the difference between sole proprietor and corporation. Corporation, if the money is having an income only, I think max of 14%, I think, taxable tax that they charge every year, as compared to sole proprietor. If you are full-time, additional to your full-time payment, you add all your money that you make on Amazon, then they're gonna tax you based on the bracket. So the more money you make, if you make 100,000, it can go up to like maybe 50%, right? That's a lot of money. So consider that as well. So recommendation for a cross-border service that allows food, health, and medicine product. I would say cross-border pickups do that for you, but you need to have special paper. and you need to make sure that you are checking, make sure that they are FDA approved in the US as well, right? So that's one thing that you need. I think David don't do any food or anything, so I do food, and you need to do your own proper research to make sure that they're allowed to be sold in the US. Okay, so are there coaches out there for wholesale? So for wholesale, yeah, there's also, it depends on what like I won't also recommend anyone, like, because I never tried any Canadian. I do have a wholesale course if you're interested, but I don't promote it too much because I'm promoting so much about, because most of the clients of mine are actually beginners. But those who's interested, I also have a wholesale course that I just actually finished doing. Okay, so thank you, Cheryl. Very good. That's it. So I guess we answered all the questions. Wow, that was a long interview, but so much, like, packed with a lot of information. So thank you so much, David, for your time. I hope you guys enjoyed, like, this interview, because I think this is so powerful. So if for those who are interested with the Platinum, with the Amex cards, I'll post it in our group. And for those who are gonna be watching in YouTube, I'm gonna post it as well at the description. So we can help David by signing up through his affiliate link, in a way for saying thank you to him for doing this for us, right? So hopefully someday we can interview you again and to see what's your update on your business. Maybe when you hit 100K, let me know, and I will interview you again, see what have you been doing already, right? So thank you so much, guys. Have a good night, and the next time I'm gonna try to do more interview. I'm asking David to recommend more people who I can interview. If you know somebody, let me know, and I can reach out to that person, and we can ask questions to them, right? So thank you so much. Have a good day, guys.